Welcome to TALKylayiq, the podcast where we uncover the untold stories of KIMAP students, professors, and staff. I'm Alnura Zhumadilova, and in each episode, we dive into real conversations and unexpected stories. Let's talk, TALKylayiq. Hi. Today we're diving into the world of academia with a very special guest, Dr. Scott Burgess, a professor who shaped the minds of KIMAP students every day. We will talk about his journey before KIMAP, his experience in teaching, and maybe even some unexpected stories from the classroom. Let's get started. Hello, professors. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
To start, could you please introduce yourself to the audience and tell what you teach at KIMAP?
I am Scott Burgess. I am the chair of the Department of Media and Communications. I teach journalism mostly. I also teach traditional communication academic courses like communication research, communication theory, things that all fit within my wheelhouse of academic world.
And how long have you been at KIMAP?
KIMAP, this is the end of my fourth semester. So I've been here 2 years. I got here in August of 23.
And how do you like it there?
I love KIMAP. I love the students. I love the things that we're doing. I think our department is really starting to stand out because we're doing practical application of media instead of just talking about media. I helped start a newspaper. We're doing a podcast right now. These are all, while we had some of these pieces in place before, I think that we have the right people that are leading the charge on that. And this is what we should be doing, is making stuff. In a newspaper, the best part about it is every time we screw something up, we get to make it again. And we learn from those mistakes. And I think that the practical experience that you get doing this is going to take you really far in your career.
As a student of DMC department, I like it lately too, because I know that we didn't have this room before, and I was so excited and so surprised when we get our first class here in January. I was like, wow, it looks so professional. It has microphones and it has these walls.
Well, the podcast room is kind of weird, and we're building a new one that'll be even better. But the thing that I could never work in here because it's so quiet. All the soundproofing actually kind of makes me a little stir crazy. But the idea is that you should be around these things, that everybody knows how to edit on, what is that, CapCut? CapCut. Everybody knows how to edit on that. No professional organization uses it.
Yeah.
And so you are at a disadvantage. And even though CapCut is easy to use, you need to know Adobe Premiere. You need to know Adobe Photoshop. You need to know that entire suite of things, because that's where real stuff gets done. And while CapCut is really nice, you can do so much more on Adobe Premiere. The problem is that, especially with students, unless they're really good at it the very first time they do it, they don't want to do it. And Adobe Premiere, you learn it by messing up stuff and by trying to edit videos. And we just had Cole Russing had put together that film festival. If you can edit in Adobe Premiere, you are in that much of an advantage. And you learn that not by simply taking a class on how to do that will help Adobe Premiere usage, but by using Adobe Premiere or using sound editing software to get rid of all my ums and ahs. And it's just a matter of also becoming more familiar, knowing where to look. I can't tell you how many videos, 2-minute InDesign videos I've watched in helping lay out the newspaper, because you're like, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? And so you pull up the video, watch it, do it. Next time, pull up the video, watch it. Then the next time you don't have to pull up the video and you can just do it. And so, there's still room for the theoretical things, but because our emphasis is application, whether it be writing papers or writing news stories, producing social media for the newspaper, creating, you participated in creating newscast videos. Those are legitimate portfolio builders that you have already done, already saved, ready to go online, where you can have a page on your website. Here's all the newscast videos that I've done. I mean, you can't beat that. That's so much better than a paper about broadcasting.
Yes, I agree with you. But before we dive into our teaching experience, let's rewind a bit. And can you please tell us what led you to academia? I mean, was teaching always your dream career?
Well, I did my dream career. I was a journalist for 20 years. I think I got into journalism because I spent 4 years in the U.S. military. And 4 years in the military taught me to question everything, to resent authority and to question it and to give authority a hard time. And there's no better way to give authority a hard time than to be a journalist. So after I got out of the Army, I traveled for a year, and I worked on a kibbutz in Israel because I'd served in a peacekeeping force in the Sinai. I got kicked out of Egypt. I was in Greece and then ended up in Turkey. Prior to that, when I was in the service, I lived in Germany, West Germany, for 2 years. So I got this sense of travel and a sense of the world being much bigger than me. Then when I graduated, I ended up at UCLA, where I worked for the paper, and the paper really inspired me to go into journalism. I was the lowest person on the sports team, so I had to cover like anything that no one else wanted to cover. And that happened to be court cases because a bunch of UCLA players got arrested for different things. One got arrested for having a gun. One got arrested for breaking into an apartment. I found courts much more interesting than sports. And so I started covering the police at UCLA. And from there, you were never going to stop me. I wanted to cover crime all the time. I worked for some small newspapers, slowly got a job at a daily newspaper after I graduated, then got a job as an editor, all the while seeing how journalism impacts our lives, how it changes lives, that you report on stuff and you get people to do things because you report about how bad these conditions are, or you report that this person that's running for office lied on their resume. All those little things, they're not super great, exciting stories. But then I ended up getting a job at Stars and Stripes. And so I moved from Western New York to Germany. I lived in Germany for 5 more years. While I was there, 9/11 happened. I started going to Iraq and Afghanistan. I'd already been to Kosovo and to Bosnia. And that experience, I mean, it sounds much more exciting than it really is. I mean, I've done some stuff where I've been shot at. I've seen a bunch of dead people. I've put tourniquets on somebody that had their arm blown off. So, I mean, you just do that as part of the war correspondent things. But when you're doing it, you're not thinking, oh, this is really glamorous. A lot of times you're just like, I really hope I don't get shot. I hope nobody blows me up as we drive down this road. There's a couple times that I was petrified, just really scared. And then I came back to the States, got a job at the Detroit News, became an auto critic for about 8 years, where I just wrote about cars. Every Monday morning, someone would drive up to my house with a brand new car, hand me the keys, and I would give them the keys to the one they gave me last week. So I ended up probably driving millions of dollars worth of cars. A Bugatti Veyron, all of the different Ferraris. The last car I drove for Motor Trend was the Ferrari 488 in Bologna, Italy. And so, I mean, we would just do that all the time. But at the same time, a couple of things that had happened in my career, I ended up speaking at universities. They would invite me. And I really enjoyed that. My sister had been a professor. And so I talked to her about, what about going on teaching? And she said it would be worthwhile if you were a full-time professor, but not worthwhile to be an adjunct, which I agree with even today. So I went back to school and got my master's degree and then got my PhD. In the middle of getting my PhD, I ended up taking a job in Dubai, and I worked there for 3 years, and then the opportunity came and opened up here. I've been here. So Teaching wise, I've been teaching for about 7 years, including the time as an undergrad, and then 5 years just as a grad. And technically, I became a doctor last May, so a year ago.
And why you said that you were autocritic? Why cars? Did you have like specific passion from childhood for cars?
Everybody thinks that, and no, I didn't. I hated the job as the business editor that I was working, and this opened up. And the agreement was that this job had a lot of travel. I probably flew, I would say probably 300,000 kilometers a year. So I would get like diamond status and all of those things. But the business editor job, I just worked 12 hours every day. And so we came to an agreement. My wife and I was like, I'll travel 2 or 3 times a month for 2 nights each time, but be home a lot more than if I'm just working this horrible job as a business editor. And so I really enjoyed I approached the job as a consumer instead of as an enthusiast. So everybody buys cars. How do you want it? What do you want? What do you expect? So I didn't always focus on performance. And quite often, I barely mention a car in some of the stuff I wrote. You know, I would just go on about other stuff. And then I might test them in different ways. I would try to drive a car until it ran out of gas or something. But I wrote like 2 reviews a week for 6 years or so before I ended up at Motor Trend. And Motor Trend is a 1 million circulation magazine. So, I mean, I guess it's as high up as you're going to get.
Yes, it is. And, well, you've had like quite a journey before KeyMap, including your military story that you just told us. Can you share us like one, like the most interesting moment from your life before KeyMap, before teaching? And what was the most interesting moment? Why was it the most interesting, and how did you feel, and so on?
I don't know. There's so many different things when you think about it. You know, like I've been super fortunate to meet really interesting people, and just to sit and talk with them. And sometimes the conversations are really interesting. Sometimes they're not that interesting. The most interesting thing, I don't know, I'll have to think about it because there's different phases of your life. And so like, this is the most interesting thing that happened when I was young, or this was when I was middle-aged, and now I'm at the end of middle age. Before teaching, I would say the thing I'm proudest of is when I was at Stars and Stripes, we conducted a survey of 2,000 after the invasion of Iraq. Me and a team of 10 other people went all around Iraq. And this is still when it was not a great time to be going around Iraq. We talked a bunch of pilots into flying us to different places, and we did surveys. We surveyed all these soldiers, sailors, and airmen. And what we learned was that the people that were reservists, the part-time soldiers that came over to Iraq as part of this big invasion, they were treated much worse than the active duty regular Army, Air Force, Marines. We also learned that their treatment between the different branches of the military was significantly different. And so we published this whole series of stories. It came in second it was an honorable mention for the Scripps Howard First Amendment Award, which is this big national award. But it also caused the US military to change how everyone was treated overseas. And we got a lot of really popular press from it, but it was all of our work that did that. And I'm certainly, as a journalist, most proud of affecting millions of soldiers' lives over the next 10 years, because the stuff that we talked about, the military changed. And they changed it because we did the stories and they were embarrassed. And so to me, that's one of the kind of the most satisfying things as a journalist. That's what you want to do, to literally change people's lives. And for the most part, journalism is not that thankful of a position. People say you lie and you're fake news and you're all these different things, and you're not. And your motivation is to just do good. Since I've started teaching, there's a lot of things. I've been like, I don't have my own children, but I get a whole set of kids every time, every academic year comes around. I love that I can inspire people and they can see themselves as journalists now instead of something else. I know that you wonder, like, maybe I could do this instead of PR. And because it's such an interesting job, you get to do so many cool things. You don't have to dig down into one particular issue. You can kind of talk about all these different things, and then you'll go, oh, I remember when I did a story about this, or I did a story about that. Even when I go back to the States and talk to my journalism friends, I've noticed that they just ask me better questions. Like when we're talking, like my friend from the Wall Street Journal, she'll be like, so when you're in Kazakhstan and this and this and this happens, what do you think then? And you're like, wow, wait, I got to think about this. As opposed to people are, what's it like there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a journalist starts to think through that. And so the other thing is, I don't think you ever lose that part of you that's a journalist. You're infinitely curious about things. And so you just ask more questions. And, but in the academic world, one is working with students and having them realize that they could be good as a journalist. They could be good as a writer. You can take better photos by doing this. One of the dumbest tips I thought I ever gave somebody came back to me a couple of years later and said, thank God you told me about this. And it was just to carry a power strip with them. Because a lot of times and I learned this in Iraq, a lot of times you'll go to a place and to this day, I'm still paranoid about charging stuff. I want things always charged all the time. In part because Afghanistan doesn't have power all the time. And Iraq always had rolling power, so you never knew. So you always wanted to turn your computer on and it'd be 100%, your phone on 100%. So I always carried a power strip, so you would have 4 outlets. And I told somebody this and they were just doing some documentary film making. And she came back and she's like, thank you so much for that advice. And at first I thought she was being sarcastic. And she's like, we were at this farm and there was only 1 outlet, and we had all these things to charge. And then I remembered I had my power strip and I just plugged it in and we never had a problem. And that film was saved. Because nothing is worse than going on an assignment, pulling out your camera, and it's dead.
Yeah.
And so I know that's kind of a silly thing, but I've also been proud of the work that I've done, the research that I've been able to kind of publish and continue, and then research I've been doing with students, even this semester, where we have 3 bachelor students that are going to all produce work that I think we can get published in academic journals.
Well, that's cool. That sounds inspiring. And you're a professor now, and every professor has their own teaching style. And how would you describe yours?
I'm always constantly trying to change it. I do probably, I'm a little lecture heavy. I would like to have more assignments go out. And I still struggle with kind of the exercises that some teachers do really well in classes to make it a little more interesting. Understanding how you guys think and approach stuff. KeyMap, I think I'm very lucky because I think the students are of a very high caliber. But you guys also don't read all of the assignments that you have. So I have to try to find stuff that'll at least be interesting to you. There's a certain amount of, I guess, entertainment that comes with it. I know I can speak with authority because I've done a lot of this stuff. But when you start to move into other areas, I think that I just come with a lot of energy. And I think that is the one thing that makes it easier. And I let you guys have cheat sheets for your tests. So
yeah, I like it. Well, professors often see a different side of student life. And what's something students might not realize about being a professor?
One is, like, somebody like me, I am not constantly on social media. While I talk with people on WhatsApp, you can send me a WhatsApp message or an email. I'm probably going to read the email first. Only because the WhatsApp I'll just open up on my computer. I don't ever look at it on my phone. I guess the other thing is that we will tend to think about what we say before we say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that students always don't do that. I think the biggest frustration I run into with students is the unwillingness to try.
Yeah.
It's okay to screw something up. It really is. That's the whole point of going to school. And the other thing I don't understand with students is Why are all of you guys in a hurry to graduate?
Because of our culture, I think. Because our relatives will say like, "What do you mean you're 25 and you're still at university and you haven't got your bachelor's degree?" And you're like, "Well, I work or because I don't want to hurry and I don't want to be tired, so I take fewer classes." And they're like, "No, that's bad. That's wrong."
Yeah, and I understand that. I think that if I were you, I would plan on trying to graduate in 5 years with my bachelor's and take one class or two classes less each semester. And the only reason I say that is that, one, it's not only just the giving you time to kind of catch your breath or work or do some of those other things, but also to really absorb the collegiate experience. The university experience is not just taking classes and getting a degree. The most important things that you'll get are the people that you meet, your fellow students that you could have lifelong relationships with them. And I would not be surprised if there is a huge number of stories about successful people in Kazakhstan who met each other at Kima.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, make sure you're spending your time doing that. Join clubs, be a part, go to events. It's so easy to say, no, I don't want to go. When really that's the first thing. I'm not saying let your social life run your academic world, but maybe if you took 5 classes every semester, I would take 4. It would take 6 years. But if you took 5, that could create a pace that is just a little more breathable. And that's the key. The arc of your life, you have no idea where it's going to go. When I was 20 years old, I had no idea that I was going to become a journalist, much less a doctor. And it would take me 30 years before all of that happened. But it's a lot more fun doing it that way than seeing the plan, meeting the expectations of people that their expectations don't really matter in the end.
Yeah. Well, I think actually that lately things are changing. I mean, yes, you see students who hurry to graduate, but I think with years, I mean, we all understand that it's not like the most important thing to graduate in 4 years, but we do it because of our parents, because of pressure, peer pressure, and so on. But when we will become parents, I think we'll be more understanding, and it's kind of a changing thing in our culture.
No, you won't.
No, okay.
Okay. I don't know. I would hope that that's true.
Okay.
I am just learning about Kazakh culture, and I understand, that there's very, very strong family bonds, and those family bonds create pressure. Women are going to face the pressure of how soon are you going to have children. If you want to establish yourself in your career, you're going to have to tell somebody that I'm going to have children when I turn 30 instead of when I turn 25. That's a big difference. That's a change in expectations. Maybe some of you will be able to do that, and then that'll move the needle a little bit. We don't ever move it from all the way on one side to all the way on the other.
Yeah.
It's incremental, the changes. And so you'll set some new standards. Your kids will push those limits and set new standards. Their kids will push those limits. The one thing that I do think is happening now more than ever is the speed of change is increasing. What might have taken 100 years before might take 20 years now. So, we see that with technology. We see that with everything else that's happening around us. So the speed in which things change, I think, can happen.
Okay. Well, let's step away from classroom. And what do you enjoy doing outside of teaching?
I used to play rugby for a really long time. Up until I left Dubai, I was playing rugby. In Dubai, I was playing what was called touch rugby, which is like really old man rugby where you don't get hurt as much, even though I would still be hurt at the end of the day. I actually have been doing a lot more writing and reading. My wife and I like to explore Almaty. We love traveling. We've been able to travel around Central Asia. and kind of have our sights set on that some more. We were planning, I don't know what exactly is happening now, but we're talking about doing a trip through Scandinavia over the summer. Last summer, we went to Vietnam for 2 months. So there's always something else to go and see. And so we're just trying to figure out what that next place was. And even now, like a couple of weeks ago, I took a tour, Soviet memorials in Almaty. Fascinating. Like there's all these murals all around the city that signify Soviet stuff, even though the Kazakh government has worked really hard to get rid of all those.
Yeah.
The Aman Theater right across the street, the big white theater. There's 2 giant Soviet reliefs in it. Around the corner, where it used to be the old tuberculosis hospital, there's a big mural about that Soviet project where they tried to grow all the wheat in Kazakhstan and destroyed all the land. There's that there. Anytime you see a woman in a picture where she's like you, she has short hair and wears pants, that's anti-Kazakh, pro-Soviet propaganda. Because I guess Kazakh women are supposed to grow their hair really long.
Yes.
So if you see it in a mural, that's actually very Soviet. And it was all around the city. There's all these little tiny signs that are reminders to part of that Soviet history of Kazakhstan. And then I know Kazakhstan goes on 1,000 years before that. But it was just really interesting to have a tour guide kind of take us around and show us all of these little pieces to the puzzle of what Kazakhstan used to be for 100 years.
Have you tried to playing rugby in Kazakhstan, or is it no rugby here?
No, I'm officially retired.
Okay.
There is rugby. There is a really good team in Almaty.
Because I have no idea about rugby in Kazakhstan.
They do play. It would have been like my 4th country to play rugby in, but no.
Okay. If you could give one piece of advice to KIMAP students about anything you want about studying or future careers, what would it be?
I would say the first thing to do, and it sounds a little dumb, take advantage of office hours. Go and meet all the professors. It does 2 things. If you go to a professor's office hour and you're like, hey, I'm just, I'm thinking, I see you teach this class. I'm thinking maybe in the fall of taking this class. And you find out that you don't like that professor at all. It's like a job interview. Don't take that class with that professor. Our department is pretty small. I hope that it gets bigger in the coming years. But you should do that. There's going to be professors that you like, and there's going to be professors that you don't like. Whenever somebody gets a job and they're talking about all the people that they don't like at their new job, to me, if there's more than 2 people that you don't like, the problem are not the other people. And so you have to kind of limit who it is I like, who it is I don't like. And so by using the office hours, meet all of the professors, not just the ones that you have teaching you in a class, but you should definitely go and meet with them in office hours. It does wonders. First, the professor will learn your name. They're not always going to learn your name in a big class.
Yeah.
2, once they learn their name, that is to your advantage as they are grading. Is that fair? No. Does it happen? Yes. But I think that where that real advantage is, oh no, Alnura has an 89.4. Put that at 89.6. Or we can let me regrade this and see if I was maybe too severe on that. And then all of a sudden that becomes a 90. I would also say, if you want good grades, participate in class. It's not merely just doing the assignments, but mostly you can do well in my classes if you come to all my classes and you do the work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a B. If you're struggling with the work, I will be glad to help you. If you're not struggling, I'll throw out a nice compliment and not worry about it. But for the most part, that's what you see. The kids that don't come to class, that you don't know who they are, and they don't turn in work. That's the other way a professor learns your name. Oh, that's the person that never did anything. And that does not help you. So I guess you were looking for more practical advice, like study or do this or do that.
No, that's very good. I think they will be useful to the listeners and to me also.
Well, and socialize.
Yeah.
Meet people, talk to people, try to come, every class you go to, try to come up with a new friend. You never hear anybody talking about, I was a straight A student at Stanford, and that's how I started this company. It was, I was talking to my friend, and we started this company. He had this idea, I had that idea, we decided to do this. Or, I think there's so much potential in Kazakhstan for like oral histories and things like that, where we could become the place that gathers all of that about the new Kazakhstan. And I would also say, don't be afraid to like shoot big. I've already sent emails to the president of Kazakhstan so that the Kemet Voice can interview him. And I'm like, I gave him a deadline. I was like, I need to know by like April 2nd, so that if you wanted to be in the last issue of the paper, we can do it by April 10th. And we're not going to come to Astana. We're not going to do, you have to come to the Kemet Voice office. You would be the person probably to do the interview.
Yay.
But I would want 4 or 5 reporters sitting at a table and the president of Kazakhstan sitting across from the table, and we ask them real, legitimate questions like journalists. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it costs me nothing to send email, other than maybe getting arrested or something. I don't know. But we have these great opportunities. Why not? Let's just see if we can do it. And the worst he's going to say is no, and I'm in the same position as I was before. What if he says yes? That's scary.
Well, yes, but we will see. I hope that I thought that we would plan this for fall, not for the last issue, but
let's ask now.
Yeah, okay.
You could be in the first issue too. Next year's second. What is that? Issue 1, volume 2.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll probably put him on the cover.
Okay. Okay, before we wrap up, let's do a quick rapid fire round.
Oh, okay.
I'll ask you a few fun questions and you have to answer as quickly as possible. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Morning classes or evening classes?
Morning.
Favorite book or research paper that inspired you?
Oh, there's so many. So let me think of the first one. Discovering the News by Michael Schudson.
Okay. The best thing about KMEP students?
They work hard.
The worst thing about KMEP students?
The other ones don't work hard.
One subject you would love to teach but never have?
History of journalism.
That's interesting. And if you weren't a professor, what would you be?
I think at this point I would be either a book writer or a screenwriter.
Okay. Favorite place to relax on campus?
Actually, the picnic table that's in the courtyard.
Oh.
They need more picnic tables.
Yes, I agree. But I rarely see people sitting there.
I like to eat lunch there. But not right now, obviously.
Yes. One word to describe your teaching style.
Energetic.
Okay. Thanks for playing this game. And thank you for coming to the interview again. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Okay, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share, and let us know who we should talk to next. Until next time, keep talking. TALKylayiq.